we are here for the Scion of Hellfire Magnar Perdition difficulty Fenne solo with no blessings, though these blessings give effectiveness anyway, so they wouldn't do anything. And this was initially showed to me by username, who sent me a video from JKR, which I'll link in the description. I've kind of just figured it out more and improved on it a bit. There is an issue that you can have if your Fenne is too good, which I came across, which took me a little bit to figure out. So I'll talk about what that issue is. It does also kind of mean that I guess like even if your gear is super good, you won't really be clearing any better than people with worse gear, which is kind of funny, but these 3 slots are just imprints. There's a lot of units you can use here. I have an SSS Fairy Tale Tenebria, for example, which is 12.9% HP. Not using it because it's not relatable, but that's some stuff you could use. Any 5 stars you have imprinted, Crow imprints or something. And then for more accessible ones, for the slot attack ones, there is Enit, Alaz, Alexa, Mui, Stream Purity Addon, Aether, Jenna, Ian. There's also the flat HP ones, which is, well, Amiki, but yeah, I think you probably don't want to use Amiki. Bask, Ellen, Terranor, Royal Guard, and Ragvald. Beyond that, you could use some crit chance ones, like I have Furious in the front here, but there's also Karin, who is pretty accessible. Unfortunately, for HP percent, it's only 5 stars, though Yuna does exist. If you have Yuna, you could use her for the HP percent imprint. These guys, for Jenna and Ian at least, no gear, no artifact. Doesn't matter, because imprints stay after death, artifacts do not. For Furious, though, or whoever your front unit is, you do want them to just not instantly die. At least make them survive the first burn, so just I could give them a random helmet and a random chest. Now let's take a look at the important person, who is Fenne. For Fenne, Destruction Pen Set, just to max out our damage, you're going to want a good amount of bulk. I would say aim for at least 22.5 thousand HP or around that area. You also need 85 crit chance, because you have elemental advantage on the boss, so it's a free 15% crit chance, though I have the crit chance imprint from Furious, so I can go down to 73. And then the rest of your stats just go into attack and crit damage. So, like I mentioned, if you have too much damage, you're not going to clear like really any better than people with slightly less damage. There is a certain limit on you anyways. So, this is a little bit, like, you don't need this much damage. You could run this with worse gear and be okay, so long as you have the HP required. You can see my stats here. Also, of course, Victorious Flag gives you damage reduction and damage dealt. So this is just really good. Just going to give you the most value. You can see the gear pieces here. This speed is all useless. I'm also overcapped on crit chance a little bit. Like I said, it could be 73. So, you definitely can. Well, you can improve on the gear, but like I said, there's not really any point as long as you meet the minimum requirements. So that's it for everyone's stats, and now let's get into the run. I'm going to turn on auto, because at the start of the fight, you kind of don't need to do anything. Everybody got burned, Fenne got stunned, it's whatever. Furious will die on the next boss turn, which you'll see the King's Will pop up on the boss every time you move. Here, or King's Rage, we're at 5, that's 6. This is 7, and goodbye Furious, as he takes 37,000 damage. Now we're kind of just autoing. This lines up perfectly, just because of the timings on Fenne's skills, but on the next turn, the boss is going to use S2, which inflicts class debuff. For Fenne, that means she is getting stunned. However, you can block this with Fenne's extra immunity from her S1 extra attack, which just happens to line up perfectly here, so we don't have to do anything, but if you need to for some reason, you could stall a turn on your S3, like use a non-boosted S1 and then S3, so you can get the extra hit in. Here we got immunity, we get it, we block it, he does this little extra hit from the max Constellation energy. Now the next thing to look out for is, there's not really much we can do about it. He's going to kill us on his next turn, but luckily Fenne has a revive. The only thing you might want to do if you are struggling with damage and need to min-max is, the timing on Fenne's skills now, for me at least, are not fantastic, because the boss is going to kill us, and then when we die, we lose our rage buff. So here we are at 5. Now we are at 6. Or I can just turn her skills off once. I'm gonna stall 1 turn, so he kills me, and then I get rage buff right after. So this is one thing we could do. Now we are looking at this little marker here. This 40% marker is what we have to look out for. This is what we're going to be coming up on next. And here is the thing where if you do too much damage, it breaks your run. We are going to stop here. I think we could hit him one more time. And now I'm just going to hit one of the lamps. This is because we don't want to push him below 40% too fast. I'm also not going to S3 here. I'm just going to S1. No extra hits, so I can afford to hit him there. So now we are going to S3 him. This is specifically because so he gets an extra skill, or an extra skill, extra attack, whatever, when he gets to 100% Constellation energy. These lamps here push 50% every time he uses a skill, and that includes his extra skill from 100% Constellation energy. If you don't have him do his Constellation 100% skill right when he enters Phase 3, because this lamp does not start moving until Phase 3. So you want him to do that skill while this lamp is at 100% already, so that 50% CR gets wasted. You can also see the Fenne tanking requirement here. I've got 2k HP to spare. We're going to Soul Burn S1 for the extra healing. The problem with this lamp down here is that when it moves, it decreases this counter by 1. So if you have, like, let's just say you entered early, when this lamp up here attacks, he increases this by 20, so that's why we waited for him to get the King's Rage to 7 and get an extra turn. And you'll see coming up here on his next turn, which I guess we're a couple of hits away here. So here, he's going to use a skill, and this thing just got pushed. So if we let it have the extra or 100% energy on that turn, this guy would have pushed up 1 more and reduced it by 1, and we would be dead. So that is just one thing to watch out for. That's why I stalled for 1 turn there. Didn't really need to Soul Burn there, but we have extra Soul Burn, so might as well use them. At this point, honestly, the fight is over. We can just auto and we'll be done. We cleared 2 turns early, so there's definitely a bit of leeway with your damage. So checking out the boot, we got the pen boot with almost max subs. Definitely very good gear. That's it for the Perdition difficulty Fenne solo, though, for Magnar. This wasn't, honestly, as bad as I thought it would be. As long as you have the HP and a decent amount of attack, I think you're fine. Like I mentioned, there is kind of the soft cap on how much damage you do, just because you have to wait for the boss no matter what. Though, of course, you do need to have enough damage to actually kill him within 2 of his turns, which is like 13, 14 of yours or whatever. Anyways, that is it for this video, and I'll see you guys for the next one.